Okay, class. So today we will. Okay. So today we will start new chapter that is climate. So before we read out these 2 pages. Today we will do 2 pages. Before we read out 2 pages, we will watch a video about the animal hedgehogs that are now very endangered. So let's watch this video and then we will start reading.
You might notice something rustling around your garden. On a late summer's evening, you might notice something rustling around your garden. Hedgehogs.
Okay,
One
these
of
are
Britain's most
hedgehogs.
charismatic mammals, and a creature you can encounter up close. We were lucky enough to film this pair in courtship.
Okay, class. Basically, these are the animals that are found in I think England or British uh, Europe, and these are now very endangered. I mean, these can only come in certain time in the year, and when they come, they don't find food enough, and their home, the where they're basically what we call that habitat is very endangered. It's very dangerous for them to survive in the changing habitat. Now we all know that the climate is changing, so their living habitat is also changing, and in the changing habitat they cannot survive longer. So it's very threatening for them to live in this changed climate. And now why the climate has changed and what effects the change of climate has given on their habitat, we will discuss it in this video. Why they are very found very few in England, and why they are reducing in numbers.
But winter is coming, as they say, and soon hedgehogs will disappear as they find a safe place to hibernate.
So they
But there
disappear
are
in
reports that across
winters.
the country, hedgehogs are disappearing on a more permanent basis. Is it true? And if so, what's the cause? First, what's the evidence for a decline in hedgehog numbers? Well, estimating mammal populations is extremely difficult. Despite this, several conservation organisations have conducted studies that strongly suggest declines are taking place. Over the long term, the British Trust for Ornithology's Breeding Bird Survey, which also records hedgehogs, found a 66% decrease between 1996 and 2009.
So they have decreased in number 66%. They have decreased in their habitats, and it's very difficult for them to survive because the climate is changing and they are not used to the new climate change.
In the 1950s, it was estimated there were over 30 million hedgehogs in Britain. Now, there is probably just over 1 million. This finding is supported by declines measured over more recent times, such as those noted in the Mammals on Roads survey, run by the People's Trust for Endangered Species. This survey also noted a decline in reports of roadkill hedgehogs, and together the data suggests significant declines across the country. So, bad news. But what's the cause of hedgehog decline? Well, usually at this point, someone likes to say badgers are the problem. Let's face it, who doesn't like to blame badgers? There's even some circumstantial evidence. Badgers do eat hedgehogs, and as the hedgehog population has declined, badger numbers have increased. Probably. Again, it's difficult to get population estimates, but there is evidence the number of badger social groups has increased by 88% since the 1980s. While hedgehog numbers do sometimes increase in the absence of badgers, that's exactly what you'd expect when any predator is removed from an ecosystem. Badgers and hedgehogs have coexisted for thousands of years. It would be pretty odd for one to suddenly drive the other towards extinction. So, While badgers might have local effects, on a grand scale, things are more complex. I went to meet Dr. Tony Bennell, who, as well as studying hedgehogs, also cares for sick and injured animals. There isn't one single
Miss,
Yes.
and nobody.
did hedgehogs have
Hmm?
did hedgehogs have needles on their backs?
What are you saying?
Miss, Miss the did the hedgehogs have needles on their backs?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have the pointy, what we can say, scars or. um yes, they do have.
Okay.
They do have the very sharp bristles. Very sharp bristles. If we will touch it, it will bleed. We will bleed.
Okay, Miss.
Is completely able to identify the reason why we've got the massive decline.
Actually, the problem is that when they usually come in spring season, and when they come, they eat some insects and some worms. But uh, due to the in England, due to the climate change, there is winter all the time, and when they usually hide themselves in winters. And when they see there is no spring coming, when they come for in search for food, they find no food, and they kill themselves out of food. And when the animal
Excuse
rescue.
me, ma'am.
Yes.
Excuse me, ma'am. What they eat?
Hmm?
What they eat?
uh, what are you saying?
I'm saying, ma'am, what they eat?
I'm not
They eat
understanding.
worms. Miss, he's saying what
Okay,
the
what?
hedgehogs eat.
Yes, worms and insects. We will read out in the chapter. They eat worms and insects, very particular kinds of. And when they find no food, they usually die. And that's why they are declining in number. There are very few found or seen in England. So that's the problem. When anyone from the rescue hospitals, animal rescue hospitals, see them, they take them to the hospital and they try to give them food or feed them. And then when they are enough with food, they send them back in the jungle. So where they hedgehogs hide themselves for months, and when they feel like they have to find food, then they come. In winters, they usually hide themselves.
We've got badgers. Okay, badgers have lived alongside hedgehogs for thousands of years. We all know that. We've got a decrease in habitat, not just habitat loss, but we've got habitat fragmentation, which means we have isolated pockets and a reduction in the number of green corridors connecting one pocket to another. That doesn't help. So we can pretty much rule out badgers as the main reason for the 97% fall in hedgehog populations in the last 50 years. And this obviously is heading for extinction. Whether we get total extinction throughout the UK, we don't know. We might have isolated pockets, but then again, if you have isolated pockets, you have reduced limited gene pool and reduced chance of viability for that population. In rural areas, habitat destruction and fragmentation is often caused by intensive agriculture. For example, the removal of hedgerows and permanent grassland. Application of pesticides in the resulting landscapes will also contribute to the
Miss,
reduction in the number
Yes.
of invertebrates.
Miss,
Essential.
why didn't people put hedgehogs in the farms?
In their hands.
No, why didn't the people put the
Hmm.
hedgehogs in the farms?
In the
Because in the
farms.
farms, yes.
But I think they cannot put them in the farms because they need the vegetables and the plants. If they will put them in the farms, then they will eat all the things, and it would be dangerous for the food, agricultural food. And I don't think so they can collect them and they can put them in farms, because already in the jungle there are plants, but they're certain type of insects. I don't think so they are, but I don't think so they can move them, because in England everywhere it's cold, and in farms also there would be cold, there would be winter season. So the season is basically the problem. If there is no winter season, then it's okay in the jungle also. The season, the uh, climate or the temperature would be okay. But in winter
Miss,
season, we see no insects. Hmm?
Miss, so the people can put hedgehogs in other countries or cities.
But they are found in England. They cannot shift all the hedgehogs in other countries. I don't think
Okay,
so they can.
okay, Miss.
Hedgehog food. Habitat fragmentation is also happening in urban and suburban areas as we both fortify and tidy up our gardens and generally make them unfriendly to hedgehog visitors.
We've got reduced roaming abilities from one garden to another due to fences being put right down to the ground. Everyone's well aware of that now. We have drownings in ponds. A lot of people love ponds, but they don't appreciate that the hedgehog can't swim forever and therefore can't climb out.
Both rural and urban areas are being increasingly crisscrossed by roads. While roadkill is not the main cause of hedgehog decline, increased numbers of roads and volume of traffic prevent the free movement of hedgehogs between isolated pockets of habitat. To further complicate the situation, there's also the issue of parasites.
Lungworm, it's very high up on the list. This is not the same lungworm that's found in dogs. It's a different species entirely. But this year, it's year 25 which I've been running York Hedgehog Rescue. I've had hedgehogs that have been put back in the wild at 800 grams, that have been monitored, they've come back in. The weights crashed within 4 or 5 weeks. And this has happened throughout the UK. And we have another parasite called the thorny-headed worm. And we seriously need a serious study to be carried out, to be funded by somebody, maybe the British Hedgehog Preservation Society or People's Trust for Endangered Species might like to look more closely at this. So lungworm and thorny-headed worm.
So, we're not quite sure what the main cause is. Perhaps each of the factors we've discussed are all playing a part. And all of this raises an important question. What can we actually do to help hedgehogs? One thing would be to get involved in a citizen science project helping to monitor hedgehog numbers. Why not visit the website for the People's Trust for Endangered Species?
Okay, now, so let's read out our page. Okay. So, how are animals affected by change in climate? Our main topic throughout the chapter would be how animals are affected by climate change. And we all know that the climate is changing. So, uh, due to the change in climate, the animals are also affected by it. Like humans, animals are more affected by it, because they, in certain season, they come out or they find food. So if the climate would change, so it would affect them badly. Okay. Scientists fear global warming. Wait a minute, let me open it. Okay. Scientists fear global warming could drive polar bears to extinction sometime this century. Extinction means they will all be perished from this world. They will be disappeared. They would be died out. That means extinction, come to an end. Some animal's life that comes to an end means extinction, means they would be no longer exist in their existing in the world. So they are thinking that polar bears are, it's just because of global warming, we think that polar bears would be extincted sometime in this century, because they I think they exist in very cold weather, and now the some places, the climate changing, there is summer season is increasing. For example, in Pakistan it's more summer season now, winter season is very less. So Because of this climate change, the polar bears are also threatened or endangered animal. News article.
Miss,
Hmm?
which of the animals are dying with the global warming?
Uh, the animals that are dying because of global warming.
Yes, miss.
Okay, there can be lot of animals like animals that are threatened in Pakistan,
Okay, miss.
in Pakistan, leopards are very endangered. Snow leopards and other lot of animals that are affected by the climate change. In Pakistan, these are one of those animals that are endangered, means that are threatened or that are affected by the climate change, and they are dying and they're reducing in their numbers. For example, if we see deers are also very less in number. Like if it's not allowed to hunt deers if they are found in the forest because they are endangered animal. We don't find lot of deers in the forest. That's why. Okay, like they have given us polar bears example, and they have given us the hedgehogs examples. Two animals they have given us that are endangered. Okay, the news article on the next page is about hedgehogs, which are now an endangered species in Britain. In Britain, a journalist explains how hedgehogs have been affected by unusual weather conditions. So, hedgehogs are affected because of the unusual weather conditions, and how they are affected, and why they are reducing in number. We have an article, news article, that we will read, that journalist has given us. Okay, early spring causes havoc for hedgehogs. Havoc means disaster, something that brings disaster. Disaster for hedgehogs means they bring death for hedgehogs. Okay, they should be curled up enjoying a 4-month winter sleep, but the warm British winter has tricked thousands of hedgehogs into thinking that spring is well underway. So they are saying that in 4 months in winters they hide themselves, and they go to sleep, that we call hibernation. Hibernation is a state when some animals go and sleep for a long time, and when the weather is right they come out. For example, we can see lizards also
It's
in winters.
like bears and lions.
Hmm. And lizards also, we don't see lizards, lot of lizards in winters, but in summers we see everywhere, some places the lizards come out for in search of their food.
It's like
And when, huh?
frogs.
Frogs also. Maybe I haven't seen frogs much, but in, I think, monsoon time frogs come out in rainy seasons, I think so. Okay,
Yes, miss.
I haven't seen frog for a long time in my surroundings. Okay. Okay, so once awake, they are unable to find enough food. So they're saying that once they wake up after 4 months of hibernation, they are unable to find food because their usual diet of snails and insects do not start appearing. So snails and insects are their diet, but they don't appear. Like we see some insects appear in rainy seasons, like in monsoon seasons, but in winters and in summers we don't see a lot of insects coming out. So if that's the case, if the insects and worms or snails won't come out in their particular season, then uh, the other animals won't be able to eat them. So snails and insects appear in spring season, but due to the enlarged winter season, the snails and insects doesn't appear, and until later in the year, and not even later in the year they appear. Okay, where are we? Not later in the year.
Weekend.
Weekend and disorientated many hedgehogs do not survive. Disorientated means Uh, a wild delusion means a change, a rapid change in something, a very drastic change. So disoriented means not in shape or not in structure. So their weather and their diet is not oriented, so it's disorientated. Many hedgehogs do not survive unless they are found by members. Okay, they are saying they are not able to survive until the members of public and members of public take them to animal hospital. So public take them when they see them to the animal hospital to save their lives. Staff at the wildlife hospital near Aylesbury, Buckinghamshire, it's part of, I think, England, UK, have reported a surge in the number of creatures brought in. About 550 hedgehogs have been, what's that, handed. Actually, this is, I can't see this word. Okay, compared with 300 over the same period last winter. In the documentary that we saw in the video, they also said that they are declining in numbers, and 66% they have reduced in numbers. So staff at the wildlife hospital near, okay, last, huh. Hedgehog normally hibernate between late December and the middle of April. So they hide themselves in December till middle of April, but many are tricked into coming out of hibernation early by warm weather. But some come out in warm weather only to be caught out by cold snaps or lack of food. And they find no food, and that kills them. Traditionally, the creatures are nocturnal, but increasing numbers are being spotted during the daytime in the desperate hunt for food. So basically, they don't come out very usual. So when they need food very urgently, then they come out. Otherwise, they don't come. For hunt, they come out. We have got hedgehogs everywhere, said the hospital founder. There's nothing for them to eat outside, and when they come in, they are in real trouble. So they are saying that they don't have anything to eat, and when they come out, they are in trouble, means they don't find anything to eat and they die of hunger, out of hunger. They will stay
Miss,
with us throughout the winter, huh?
Miss,
Yes.
did animals eat hedgehogs?
Maybe some animals eat hedgehogs, but they haven't mentioned it, because if animals eat hedgehog, then they would have given us the reason that hedgehogs are declining in number or reducing in numbers because other animals eat them. But that's not the case. I don't think so other animals eat them, because if they would eat them, then the reason, they would be one of the reasons that other animals eat them, and that's why they are reducing in number. But that they are dying because of hunger, because they don't find anything to eat. Okay, they will stay with us throughout the winter, or they are saying that throughout the winter they stay while we fatten them up before releasing them back into the wild in April, when they will have enough energy to forage. Forage means to find, to go in search of food, for food by themselves. Okay, so they are saying that if those hedgehogs who come out early in winters, they put them in the hospitals, and when they have enough energy and they have enough food, then they go out, then they leave them, or they put them into the wild back into the woods or forest. In wildlife, it is usually the young hedgehogs which get into trouble because they often don't have enough fat reserves to survive. Okay, so they're saying that the hedgehogs that are very young, they don't have capability to store the food inside them, for fat inside them, so that's why they are unable to survive for longer. Hedgehogs are not the only animals to be affected by unusual weather conditions. Newts, bats, and grass snakes, which should all be in hibernation, have been found in distress by members of public and taken to the rescue hospital. So they are saying that bats, also grass snakes, and newts are also found endangered, because they are also uh, spend their time in hibernation. They also sleep for some time, but when they wake up, they don't find food or they die. Butterflies and bumblebees, they that do not usually emerge until spring, have been spotted as early as December. Okay, so they are saying that those animals who appear in spring season, but spring season is late, or they appear or they come out of hibernation in early before the time, or in winters, they find trouble for themselves. This change in temperature is a big problem, said the Nick Collerson, head of conservation policy at the Woodland Trust. Our winters are becoming more topsy-turvy, with a particular feature now being very mild periods followed by sudden cold snaps. So they're saying that the winter season, because of the climate change, the winter season is increasing up. So that's why they are making the climate very dangerous for the animals, those who cannot survive in them. Okay, so the winter snaps are cold snaps. They are kind of unusual cold kind of season. Unusual, that don't come very usual. A cold wave, it's a wave of weather. For example, if the summer season has started in Pakistan and suddenly the winter comes again, a wave of winter season comes again for a while. For example, for 2 weeks there is a very heavy rain and very cold rain, then the weather would be uh, different from the summer season or spring season. So similarly, in England, there cold waves comes, that is called cold snaps. When the all the animals appear, thinking that it's spring again, but suddenly the cold snaps comes. Suddenly the cold wave or attacks of cold air comes, like we have seen very climate change disasters coming out. So when the cold snaps come again and again, it becomes very dangerous for the animals to survive, because they are not aware of that cold waves or snaps would come. Okay, so the cold snaps are very dangerous. They are like, we have heard about blizzards, storms, and typhoons. So tornadoes also, so tropical cyclones. So we have seen them, like heat waves also. So we know all these climate natural disasters. So similarly, the cold snap is also like a natural disaster that comes. When they come, that comes, it brings disaster also. Okay, class, so it's time for your attendance.
Removed from CB branch.
Okay, let me stop.